Hi, I'm Faster EFT Practitioner Kim Brown. Glad you could join me today. And with us also today is Carol Langdon, a Level 4 Faster EFT Practitioner from England. Welcome, Carol.
Hi, Kim. Nice to see you.
It's good to see you again. Carol and I worked together at Habilitat back in January of this year. And Carol, you call your company Bridge to Reality. Now that sounds like we are not in reality yet. Aren't we living in reality?
It's a very interesting question, and it's all down to perception, of course. We are in a reality, but how can I put it? Lots of us are not in the reality that we want. We're in the reality of our birth, if you like. My mind's jumping all over the place. Reality is what you're experiencing now. My interpretation, of course, everything comes from me. But most of us at some point would like a better life. You know, we talk about conversations I've had today. People go to work, they leave at 5:30 in the morning, they come home at 7 o'clock at night. They're off for 2 days at weekends. And all they do in that time is recuperate to go back to work again. And somebody in that reality wants a different reality. And as practitioners, this is actually what we're doing, helping people change their reality, helping people uncover their authentic selves. That's how I like to look at it. And oh my word, my mind's exploded. What a loaded question. Not a loaded question, but what a wonderful question to start with. So my nephew at the weekend, this is a bit of a story, but maybe it gives an idea of where I'm coming from. My nephew at the weekend was playing a gig, and he's a lone performer, and my nephew appears to be a very shy, very quiet demeanor. And I was there with him and my ex-husband, and we were having a conversation about the ego. And the ego likes to take us back to where we have been, or it likes to take us to where we're going. It's very uncomfortable living in the now, the authentic self. So I was having a discussion with my ex-husband in particular, and we were talking about my nephew after he performed. And he went from being a very shy, quiet person to absolutely, the whole audience was in his hand. You know, we were all singing the mamas and papas. Everyone was having a wonderful time, and he was just exuding vibrance, you know, totally different from his normal persona. And my ex-husband said, if that isn't ego, I don't know what is. And I said, I have to disagree. That's not ego, that's his authentic self. This is the self out of fear, out of worry, out of everything else. And this is who he's meant to be. So for me, I'm jumping all over the place, but it sort of matches up somewhere. I did counselling training, and part of that counselling training was to have counselling. So I'm going and paying this lady every single week to talk about my stuff, the same stuff, week in, week out. Eventually I could talk about it, but the real hurt, the real pain was still there. And in my mind, I decided I wanted to help people, but I didn't want to see them for the rest of their lives with their problems. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be able to help people in the now, this moment, to resolve whatever's going on and empower them to go away and work on themselves. So being very resistant to things that appear to be not normal, it took me a year before I came into Faster EFT. I can thank various things, and one of which was my sister having terminal cancer. I'm pleased to say she's still alive. and the terminal cancer is gone.
Okay.
But she's very like me, very resistant to these things. So I used her as a guinea pig. So in order to help me, I was helping her as well. But it's that she's empowered and she wants to do it for herself. So she's taken what I've taught her and she uses it. And this is me. I feel more of a catalyst than a therapist, if that makes sense. So where that came all round in a huge big circle.
Well,
But
it's a beautiful circle, and it did tie it all together. And stories do that. They help us to see.
They do.
So, yeah, that was a very good example. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Wonderful question. Wonderful.
So what do you think makes it so difficult for us to live in the now?
Well, for myself, when I came to Faster EFT, when I did the first live training, I had a crossfire from Beth and Deirdre. And up until that moment, I had all sorts of problems, sister with cancer. I had dairy intolerances. I had hay fever. I suffer with SAD syndrome. You name it. I was good at practicing all of these things. And I woke up the next morning and my head was totally clear of the mind chatter. And for me, that was a huge, huge thing, because I always thought mind chatter was normal. Everybody had it. And there was nothing we could do, Didn't even cross my mind to think that we could get rid of it. So for me, that was so freeing and so empowering. It's like the magic bullet, and transforming the bad feelings, the bad sensations that we have is all part of this freeness. So I walked out of that room being able to drink milk, and it tasted creamy. I now have a choice. I can drink milk or not. I can eat cheese or not. Whereas in the past, it tasted very similar to what you would imagine a cow stuff to taste like, without going into graphic detail. So in a 2-hour session, I saw how powerful it could be. So as if I needed further proof, I got it anyway. And it's just, if I can pass this on to other people, and that's what I do as much as I can, because it's so wonderful. Why wouldn't you spread the word,
Yes. One of the most powerful things I saw on your website was you said that you love finding out how the mind works, what makes us do what we do, and how we can change.
Yes, yes. We are so successful. And Robert is so gifted, talented, because as he says, we are not broken. None of us is broken. The addictions, the problems we all have are successful creations of what we do to keep us safe. So a little bit of enabling people, helping people to take the power back from themselves, anything could happen. Anything could happen if you want it to happen. You can live that life of 9, well, we say 9 to 5, but now it's becoming more like 6 a.m. till 7 p.m. or whatever. You have the choice. And for me, having that choice is a wonderful gift that we can give people, to give them the choice, Choice is about everything, isn't it?
It is.
But we are successful. We're very, very successful. And finding that golden thread, as Robert says, that links everything together. And actually, sometimes we don't even have to find the thread. For me, it's sometimes about going into a session and not really having a clear picture of where it's going, but knowing that your client, there's a part of the client that knows. That part of the client that knows leads you where you need to go, that benefits them to release all the stuff they need to release. Sometimes we may not think it's doing anything at all. And And when you see the client 6 months later, their life has completely changed, which is okay. And it's all good learning for us as well. You know, it's client led, which I love, because I don't need to know the answers.
Right.
They have the answers, and them having the answers is what brings them where they need to be.
Exactly. And like with your sister, she wants to be in charge of her life. She wants to let me learn this, teach it to me so that I can apply it. And those are the people who tend to see the most change. Would you agree?
Yes, exactly. I mean, even people who come, there are people who come and say they want to change, but there's a huge resistance there. And that is what keeps us out of the now. That's the big thing that keeps us out of the now. But when you understand that we're working with the unconscious mind, if you can understand where that resistance is coming from, you can even get the resistance working for you to help that client to become the better version of themselves. But yeah, wanting to do it for themselves is far better than, for me, it's far better than having a client who's going to come and see me for the next 16 years, paying me money every week. To me, that's not helping them at all. So,
Especially if you're going to just take them back to the
same
past
old
that they're already living in anyway.
Exactly. And for me, for example, I've been trying to work on some memories. And when I first started school at the tender age of 4, I was in one school for a very short period of time. But because I've worked on these memories so much, I can't remember which of the 2 schools was my first school. And I actually ended up laughing, because I think it doesn't matter. It's so much in the past. It's such a story. And that's keeping me out of today. So, you know, it's when you understand that none of that matters. Even yesterday doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is today. Tomorrow hasn't come yet. So by helping people live in today, it's a beautiful day. Where I live, there's nothing bad happening. Everything is great. And why wouldn't I want to be here? So, yeah.
So what are the gifts that you have received from living today, living in the now, rather than the way you used to live?
One of the gifts is the mind chatter stopping. I don't, you know, from what I remember of the mind chatter, it would be, I wonder what so-and-so is doing. I wonder what they're thinking. I wonder, you know, what if that's gone? The more I work on myself, the more I come to a place of I'm able to almost examine my words before they go to my mouth. So I can think about what I'm about to say, and I can choose whether to say it or not. If it doesn't seem right, I can change it. And I'm aware of my language more. So the more I become aware of my language, the kinder I am to myself and to other people around me. And that's a huge, huge gift for anybody. And I think that's where we all come to. I am my more authentic self. And it's interesting you asked that question as well, because it's like, whoa. So from the age of 6 months, my initial name is Patricia, and Carol is my middle name. My father was Irish, and one of my aunts very kindly started calling me Paddy, and it was not a nice way of calling me Paddy. So my mum decided to call me Carol, my middle name. And I had no choice in it. And I always thought that I was called Carol because they didn't like the name Patricia. And with this comes an awareness that actually they did like the name Patricia, because that's the name they gave me. So as I become more authentic, you know, abuse happened to me as a child, and that's all in the past. I can talk about it. There's no pain there. I've learned from it. I've grown from it. But part of that again was I changed my name. I didn't go back to Patricia, but I decided to be called Pat from the age of 11 to 16. So at school, I was Pat. So if you see, there's a bit of a pattern developing here. I've gone from Patricia to Carol to Pat, back to Carol. And as I'm becoming more authentic, I'm thinking, I like my old name. I'm thinking of going back from my married name to my maiden name. And I'm thinking, well, if I'm going to do the last bit, why don't I do the first bit? So it's all about becoming my authentic self. And it feels right. There's a place in me that knows what I know. And as long as I don't let the ego get involved, it's the good place for me. And this is part of what's bringing me back there as well. So part of my growth is listening and trusting that part of me that knows. If that
And that's
makes
very
sense.
powerful, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
So I think one of the marvelous things about Faster EFT and the practitioners is that we do have to have sessions as well. So you are traveling your bridge to reality as well.
I am.
Through that, you're gaining better awareness of you and better awareness of how to assist your clients in traveling that bridge as well.
Yes. And my bridge to reality is taking me to a better reality all the time.
Isn't it?
It is. And another huge thing. I've always wanted to travel. Since I've been with Faster EFT, I have traveled a lot. As you said earlier, we went to Hawaii in January, working in the rehab. And you asked me 3 years ago, 5 years ago, if that was going to happen. There's no way on this earth. All the things I've done with the money programs and stuff I had running, there was no way it was ever going to happen. But life happens gradually, it changes gradually, and it's not until you look back and you think, my God, I was there 2 years ago and life is so different now, you know. Going to Greece for level 2 training last month, very strange way of thinking, but this is totally different than what I was like before. I'll cut a very long story short. I was invited to go to Finland. So I went to Finland for a few days before. So Aini, the lady I stayed with, was coming for level 2 training. We did the training and I hadn't booked my flight home. And I just didn't book it. And there was something in the back of my mind saying, there's somewhere else you're going to go. And 2 days before I was due to come home, I decided to try and book my flight, and it took me all afternoon, and it just would not book. You know, internet goes down, something else happens. I couldn't book it. I thought I'd booked it, but actually it had timed out on me and I hadn't realised. So I just left it. And next morning I woke up and pop, an idea comes into my head. One of the ladies that was there for training was talking about Croatia. She did a presentation on it. It's a beautiful place. And I thought, go to Croatia. Messaged her. And next thing you know, I've booked my tickets. I'm going to Croatia on the way home. So it's like, this is something that I don't do, but what fun, you know? Life is about having fun.
Yes.
Finding the child within. And I love the child within. Yeah. That's what else it's brought me as well. Spontaneity.
That's beautiful.
Which is what.
So Carol, if someone was coming to you for sessions, or to the people who are watching today, what is something that you really would love for them to be able to understand, to know? What is the key?
I think, the key. The key, I can't put it in one sentence, but the key is to help them understand that they have so much power. The source of their power is within. Everything comes from within. And they have used that source, that power, very powerfully up to now. And it's not a mistake they're where they are, but they can learn from it. They can change it. They can change their life. And I think the most important key is to forgive yourself, forgive others, stand in your power, and know that you can make those changes, and you don't necessarily need someone else. It's nice to have the help and the guidance along the way, but the power ultimately comes from within. I think for me, that's the main thing, of the main driver for me, to help people understand they can take personal control. It's down to them.
Very good.
Yeah.
And that makes me think of another thing that was on your website about looking so happy and together on the outside, but inside you were not. And that is where, that's
Change.
what needs to be touched. Yes.
Yeah. That's where change. That's where change occurs. I want to say that's the inner alchemy. You know, it's not about what's out there. And Robert talks about the two models of the world. You know, the upper level and the lower model. So the lower model is, you're doing it to me, it's not my fault, it's your fault, it's everybody else's fault, it's the TV, it's the government, it's everybody else. Once you start to realize that everything comes from within, you have the choice whether to make your life good or bad, right or wrong, whatever it is. Then you start that inner alchemy of finding that power, uncovering everything that's in there. And innately, you know, it's all here. It's all here. So being able to facilitate that for others is a very, very powerful thing, very powerful place to be.
Yes, it is. Now, I saw also where you do workshops, you do community workshops as well as corporate workshops. Do you want to tell us a little bit about those?
So I like to have people round. It's very small at the moment. Well, it's growing. So I have people here with depression, anxiety, all sorts of problems. And they come for a couple of hours a week, and we work on their problems. I was going to say, actually, it's evolved more into a general discussion, because I've noticed that in the room, however many people there are, we can all relate to each other in some way. So whatever's going on for one person is happening to another in a slightly different way. So again, it's not about me tapping on somebody like Robert does at the front of the room anymore. It's more about recognizing how I can use that, whatever's going on, and we all tap together. So giving them the power. I've got somebody who's been coming for quite a while who had depression, had a couple of breakdowns, and his life is totally turned around, totally changed. You know, he's got his power back. He's sold his house. He doesn't owe any money. He's got money in the bank, and he's taking time out for himself to decide what he wants to do. Probably coming for level 1 training in November. So that's a really empowering thing for him. Another lady has suffered with depression, extreme depression, and her son has been away to America for 3 months, and he's come back and he's seen a huge difference. There's all sorts of things. Another lady with frozen shoulder, fibromyalgia, you know, it's just gradually working away at it, helping them, maybe getting the odd message now and then, you know, I'm really struggling with this. Just asking a few questions and then directing them where they need to go to work to release that problem, so that they're doing it for themselves, which is, is where I'd like to be.
Yes.
So it's really good, really good.
Well, Carol, do you have anything else that you would like to say before we close today?
I think the only thing I would say is when I think about languaging, we were talking about languaging earlier on, while I was in the rehab doing my training, one of the most valuable things I picked up from there was when we were talking to the addicts, the clients in the rehab, that we would always talk from I, how I feel. And if you always remember to speak from how I feel, you can't possibly go to the lower model of the world. And I think that's one really big part of life for me. So I always try to speak from I, and I always try to live in the day. And if I find myself going backwards, I ask myself, what part have I played in this? If somebody's pushing my buttons, what part resonates with me? What do I need to work on to bring me back to today? Because there's a gift in everything. No matter what happens, there's always a gift. So it's what gift can I get from it? Even while we were in Habilitat, the bird Lily, you know, she was a huge gift for me, because big birds and I have had a bit of a love-hate relationship. I love them while they're behind the cage, but this one actually decided to sit on my knee, and there was a big trust there. And also I got pecked a few times. So it was learning to trust, but listen to myself in the moments that it was getting a little bit dangerous and I needed to move. And that, yeah, the lesson from that is it took me back to the childhood thing, with what happened to me as a child, and being in that frozen place of not being able to speak, not being able to say what I needed to say. Took a long time, but I did say it in the end. So looking at the gifts everywhere, because even in Habilitat at the age of 58, there's a message from that bird to the little 8 or 10-year-old little girl. So everything is always related, and just look at it for the gift of what is there. Yeah.
And I, being at Habilitat for those 2 weeks, I got to see you practice what you're preaching here. I witnessed it, and I was quite impressed with you, and asked you then, would you do an interview with me, because of how impressive it was to watch you experience Lily. I saw the bruise. So yes, I witnessed you walking your talk, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
And Carol and I thank all of you for watching today. I'll have her information at the end of this video if you'd like to contact her, or maybe go to one of her workshops if you live in her area of England. Thank you for being with us today, Carol.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you very, very much.
And remember, everyone, no matter what you've experienced in the past, you're living today, and today is a new day. See you next time.